Around. Just don't want to go back to. Should be okay. Please ensure your microphones are off, and before we get, I'll ask Councillor Eilean Stewart to lead us in prayer.
Gracious God, we welcome on. Thank you all for guide for us from the spiritual and temporal gift. Give thanks again for the workshop we did with us this community. We all want decisions about to deliver us for all the chief executive and staff as usual. Don't be with us at this time. We face so many different decisions that we just guide us in all these things. This time. But at this time, we will be less fortunate, especially you remember Nigel who is on the day that be the healing hand. Return to health. We have to work. So remember with this time. Remember any other show on we can do. So much she doing so many flashy things. Again. Remember us all really. Give us a small. Give us again on all for celebration. Ask for Jesus.
Councillor Stewart, this meeting is being recorded and will be made available on the College website for the. Before I start, I just want to say thanks to all the officers and also to the members for their support to all the officers in the fine circumstances of that recently. So together the agenda and all the reports, and it's not been easy for them. So just want to acknowledge that at this stage. Recommended that under the terms of section 50A4 of the Local Government Scotland Act 1973, public, including the press, be excluded from the meeting during consideration of the following items. The grounds that exempt information as defined in Part 1 of Schedule 7A of the Act will be disclosed. Those are items 10, 17, and 19. And ruling items 5, 6, 7, 14, 19, and 20 as urgent to allow the matters to be considered prior to the next meeting of the committee. And items 12 and 24. Item 1 is the minute of meeting of 20 September 2023, and that's for approval. 22. Members are asked to declare any interest they have in any items of the agenda, and it would be helpful if members specify their declaring an interest in the item. Members in the chamber, please do so now by pressing your microphone on or remotely through Teams by using the raise hand function. Please ensure that declarations should apply to the relevant item and adhere to the protocol as previously indicated. Using your mics or hands. Item 3. The minute of the meeting of Community Safety Board of 22nd November 2023, and therefore approval of recommendation of items 3 to the 5 and 6 of the table. Item 4, minute of the meeting of the Human Resources Subcommittee of 23rd November 2023, and again that's for noting. Item 5, minute of the meeting of the Budget and Strategy Board of 23rd November 2023. And again, that's for approval and recommendation at item 2 of the minute. Item 6 is the minute of the meeting committee in Gaelic, 28th November 2023. That's for approval and recommendations at items 3 to 6 of that minute. Thank you. Item 7. So this report is for noting and provides details of the cyber attack and coroner's information technology assistance. response and also the management of the recovery process. Ask the Chief Executive Malcolm to speak to the report, and non-Skinner and Calvin Kinsey are available to answer members' questions.
Thank you, Chair. This report is indeed for noting, and much of the information contained in it will be known to members, but it is right and it's correct that the committee with responsibility for this area receive a report on the subjects, and I won't go through what you already know. I'll simply refer to the current and anticipated response to the incident, which is set out in paragraphs 6 to 8. Paragraph 6 sets out our business continuity planning. It's important that you know, as members, the structure under which we are operating and how matters are being dealt with at the strategic and operational level. That's through corporate management team, as you would expect, and an incident management team responsible for the day-to-day work. That's meeting under the chairmanship of Norma Skinner, head of HR and performance, and my thanks to Norma and members of that group for the work they've done hitherto. That group is meeting twice weekly, reporting to corporate management team, which meets each Monday. Paragraph 6.6 notes that bit of an understatement there. The IT team is under considerable pressure in assessing the situation. That's becoming much clearer now, of course, because we're 2 weeks on, and critically initiating recovery and rebuild. Data recovery remains a possibility. That is not, I would want members to be clear that is ongoing work, and it is by no means, you hear of terms like lost, and it is all there. It is simply that we can't access it, and data recovery remains a possibility, and that's obviously a high profile work for the team and those who are advising us. So it is not the case that that material is lost. It is simply not accessible to us at the moment, and recovery of it, of course, would be the best possible solution. Neither has any of it been leaked. We checked for what has departed from these servers, and the minute that happens, we will of course advise you and everyone else that that has not been the case. So data has not been lost. It is simply not accessible to us, and that's an important distinction. On the practical front, it is highly likely that I will need to redeploy resources within the Comhairle to assist the recovery process, as well as maintaining a frontline service in our principal areas. Now, those arrangements, of course, will vary from time to time as we prioritise certain services. And my thanks to Human Resources Subcommittee, whose minute you've just approved, which has delegated authority to me to establish such temporary structures, particularly within IT, as are required. Moving on to paragraph 7, this will have a cost. Undoubtedly, we will need specialist professional assistance, and we may need bodies on the ground, as it were, to help us rebuild systems. That's not necessarily in IT. Those may be within services as well. It's as much for the service that we can deliver the service as for IT to rebuild systems. And we're counting costs at the moment. These are not currently a matter of concern. I have, of course, spoken to Scottish Government, and I took the opportunity to speak to the Minister for Local Government personally in Edinburgh last week to indicate that we would continue to seek assistance, not just technical assistance, but perhaps other assistance in restoring our services and our systems. Finally, communication. We are communicating, I think, effectively internally and with the public as best we can. That will continue. It's a key task of CNT. It's a key task of the interim management, the incident management team as well, that we keep people informed. But of course, there is no point reiterating what is already known. We continue to develop the intranet page for employees and the internet page. The temporary web page has new material on it all of the time, and that will continue again as a priority. Finally, all I can say is every organisation in Scotland, in the UK, is vulnerable to this kind of attack. We have responded, I think, very well to it. We will seek expert help and assistance as required, and we are using our business continuity planning in the correct way to not creating structures for the sake of them, but to support corporate recovery and service recovery. That's going to be a process, of course, not an event. I will be reporting to this committee at each series for the immediate future. And if we need special meetings to move things on quicker than that, then these will be arranged. And finally, can I thank you for your support for me and for our employees, particularly in the IT service. Hitherto, I've received not one complaint or moan about certain things not being done or being done as quickly, and for that I'm grateful. Our task is to support you with the questions that your constituents may have, and to keep you updated with developments with service delivery, and of course to ensure that we prioritise appropriately. I will involve members in that discussion when we have a clear idea of what's required. I think it's pretty obvious we will want to prioritise the financial systems, anything to do with HR as well. But service delivery equally important, and I will involve you in these discussions when the final list is knowing that will be far away. So, thank you, Chair. Happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from one member? She doesn't have to be online. Yes, okay.
Thank you, Sheila. Can I first of all pay tribute to CMT, the Student Service the study with IT, done the police magnificent job in the face of such crisis, really. Actually, all staff who very hard to get things back up and running. Can I ask, you made the local government, you didn't give any indication of what the response was to give a request for assistance?
Exactly.
Sorry, I should have said that. No, Mr. Fitzpatrick was very understanding. He was pleased to hear that we were receiving technical assistance through the Scottish Government team, and he indicated that he would work with us once our needs and costs and estimates were better known. We're drawing these up at the moment, and we have a very good civil service support, and I should say support from across the local government community as well. But we will, I think, rightly seek assistance. This is a resilient situation. I noticed, I couldn't help noticing that Edinburgh's declaration of a housing emergency resulted in an immediate £500,000 to support that council with its housing emergency. We have not an emergency perhaps, but a significant resilience event, which will cost us, caused entirely by external forces, which will cost us a great some unquantifiable sum at present, and it's right that we seek assistance through government from that. So we will be pushing that as soon as we can.
It is certainly up there with any similar policies as such. When do you think you'll be in a position in terms of the cost implications?
I think we're not far away from that. If I could turn to Norma Skinner, who's chairing the group, which is looking at the cost to each individual service. She can maybe advise when we might have a view on that.
Norma?
I do think there's the potential for ongoing costs while we race along in terms of staffing. So I think there's two sides to this. Be around the IT rebuilding system, where the cost may be accessible at a later stage, but certainly I do think there will be ongoing as we go through the recovery that will need to be addressed.
Thank you, Councillor Craig, for your comments at the start there. I think second by the chambers. Support received. Any other questions or comments? If not, that's just for voting. We need to know. Number one, we are the meeting. Is a report for there also for noting and concern that progress on corporate policy matters and leads to the happy progress of the 2023-24 departmental strategic priorities. We have the Chief Executive, Chief Financial Officer, and Head of Partnership Services to take us through the respective agreements with the Chief Executive.
Thank you again, Chair. If the committee will bear with me, this is quite a substantive report. I'm certainly not going to read it to you, but there's a lot of information in it, and I think it's right that we highlight certain points. Formally, in the risk management, that's 6.1 sets out the strategic risks, 10 of which are monitored by my own department, and you can see that 2 of them remain high after controls are implemented, and that's not surprising. The cost of living issues and climate change. And further detail of that, all of these, of course, is available on Interplan. But turning to paragraph 7, which sets out the details of our policy work at present. I'll turn first of all to 7.10, which refers to Crown Estate grants. Now, it is disappointing, I think, that we don't have notification of this year's Crown Estate funding at this stage. This used to come through, as members will recall, in September, October of each year. Last year it was December, and clearly it looks as though it will be December, hopefully not any later. This year, as soon as we have that, of course, we will let you know, obviously, what the sum is. But if there are any adjustments to the scheme, and I think we will have to consider some adjustments to the scheme. Some of that depends, of course, on how much is awarded. I'll bring that back to you, hopefully in advance of the February committee. But it's unfortunate that information isn't available. The question was asked at COSLA, and I think the answer later from, as you may recall, was I don't think the COSLA officers were able to offer much assurance or information there either. But that last year came in December, and we can't see any reason why that wouldn't be the case. Moving on to 7.11, that refers to levelling up, and you're all aware that we and 3 other council areas have been awarded £20 million on the basis of levelling up, and I have no doubt that is an account of the quality of the submissions, which we have consistently pressed. They were rejected before under the levelling up criteria that applied at the time, but there has been no change to them. You've reaffirmed them, you've shown confidence in them, and here they are bearing some fruit. Now, this will be a partnership approach. UK government says. We don't have the details of that yet. We're in touch, obviously, with levelling up officials within Scotland office. They will be visiting us, I think, in the new year, and we will see what they have to say, work through the criteria, and of course it will be for that structure informed by this chamber and our corporate policies to determine where that assistance goes. We have a corporate strategy, we have an islands deal, we have a capital programme, and we have other strategic documents, and that shows the critical importance of strategy in attracting funding and then subsequently distributing it. If we did not have these documents, and they were not of sufficient quality, this funding would not be coming. I have no doubt about that. But that's a very welcome move. And we will use that funding in partnership with others, and I think that will include the private sector. I think that's an expectation which UK government has to best effect. So there will of course be further reports on that as soon as that comes through. Lots of information in 711 to 717 there about apprenticeships, employability. I won't read these out to you, but it's all there. Moving on to priority 3.1 and paragraph 720 onwards. This is a lot of this is material for Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, but I know that Councillor Robertson will be forgiving if I speak about it here. Much going on in relation to ferries. We've had the response to Project Neptune. We've had the Net Zero Energy and Transport Committee recommending something different to a CMAL Transport Scotland merger. Project Neptune recommending something else. And there's been an announcement from the Minister for Transport that there's a wish to award the next Light and Heavy Duties contract to Calmac on different terms, with a much greater emphasis on local say and on customer issues. We need to see, of course, where that discussion goes and what the detail of that actually means. We were very quick to say that is not the issue necessarily. The issue is not the structures in themselves, nor indeed the companies. The issue is how responsive it is to local needs and how well it supports local jobs and services. That's what's critical with our services, and we all know that. So there'll be a lot more coming to the Transportation Committee and possibly indeed to Policy and Resources Committee on these issues, because there are competing recommendations there for future structures, and we need to see what the Minister's announcement, if that's confirmed by legal advice, actually means for us on the ground. Moving on to 722, the third UK Islands Forum took place in Stornoway last month, chaired by Michael Gove, and as you can imagine, the leader and I made significant representations about levelling up. I don't know if that was part of the decision, but we certainly made them. That too was attended by Fiona Hislop, Minister for Transport in the Scottish Government, and that too was very helpful, I felt. Theme was connectivity, physical and digital. You can see what was agreed there. The plea from us was really linked to what was said in Transportation and Infrastructure this morning. There needs to be an integrated look at transport. We saw this morning a very interesting presentation of what would be transformational in terms of air services, but it will only be transformational for the public, of course, if the services are affordable and if people can move about. If that's the case, that would be very, very significant indeed. I say nothing about the removal, about moving freight by air. That's going to way beyond my competence. But at the same time, we're thinking about future ferry services, we're thinking about fixed links. It is critical, and that was the message that was given by us and other councils to the forum, that we must look at this on an across the board basis. And if UK government is to be involved in transport within the Highlands and Islands of Scotland, then they too need to be at the table. And you'll see that the Secretary of State agreed that the fortnight working group or a track and finish group to take that forward, and not much has happened on that yet. But to be fair, it's been only a month. Moving on to 7.23, National Care Service. Again, the concerns, there are serious concerns within COSLA and the local government community about the timescale for this. Again, the COSLA is, I think, supportive of the principles of National Care Service. It's the delivery and the funding that's the issue. And ministers are still saying that this bill has to be introduced to the Scottish Parliament in January of next year, which gives us very little time to be clear about, first of all, the financing of it, structure of it, but critically, whether it takes into account the potential for a single island authority in delivery of this service. Now, we have a lot of assurances and a lot of support in saying that, but we do need to see that on the body of the bill, and there is not much time to do that. If we're involved in that at this stage, it's a lot easier than trying to argue for amendments at various stages of the parliamentary process. Moving on to 7.25 onwards, reference again to Crown state funding. 7.28 resilience strategy. I'm pleased to say that for Euston Borough resilience structures, I did some consultation last month on proposals for the successor of the Euston Borough subgroup of the emergency planning group, and those were unanimously supported by all the agencies involved. So I'll be taking a report to the January meeting of the coordinating group, which I will share with you as members, because we want that group to be up and running as soon as possible. I'll leap ahead. I'll leap over the renewable energy items, important though these are, because you've heard a lot of it about these at Sustainable Development Committee this week. I'll leap to 7.47 and review of local governance, single island models. There has been a lot of activity in the latter half of this year. There's another meeting on Thursday with proposals with NHS at the table. This is coordinated by government, and it's fair to say government is very clear with other partners that this is government policy. We expect to see progress. I've mentioned there the commitment of the COSLA conference of the First Minister, the Deputy First Minister, and others. And it was good to hear the academic contributors, Professor James Mitchell of Edinburgh University, saying that the work going on here and in Orkney was really the only radical and worthwhile proposal to emerge out of the review of local governments. And there was a clear commitment and strong support for what we are doing, but of course it needs to be pushed to a timetable and a conclusion. Almost finally, 7.49, the BBER report, which we received last year. Our action plan, of course, is underway, and that's monitored through Audit and Scrutiny Committee. But we had the leadership report at the last series, and that I think was very good. We need, of course, to maintain momentum on that and strategic decision making and medium-term financial planning, and in all other respects. But it was very encouraging to see Audit Scotland recognising the work that we have done, while I need hardly add losing the revenue budget on an annual basis. So I think everyone in this room, member or official, should be very content with that position, but it has to be maintained. Bit of an anticlimax. Funnily enough, the department is forecasting to come in on budget in 23-24. With that, Leader, I'll stop talking and happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive. Any questions or comments from members?
Thanks, Chair. Going back to the county state funding, which is always very welcome, particularly for the boards. Not knowing where we are going forward, one of the suggestions that I think it was broadly supported, maybe wrong, was we all saw funding applications coming through every single ward from cross island charities, etc. Who were bidding in every ward looking for someone. And it's difficult when your own ward is oversubscribed. As much as we want to give money to a particular organisation, and I'll make no bones about mentioning Macaulay Farms, one of the ones that stood out. Working of individual ward contributions, difficult to get it when your own ward's oversubscribed from within. May I suggest that we set up an additional ward, a blank ward, Ward X, call it what you like, no reference to Elon Musk. And shave off some money so that we can attribute pan Western Isles applications and direct it to that particular fund. Because there are many worthy charities who applied who didn't get anything because of the nature of the application. They weren't applying in a specific ward. And it was difficult. It was difficult to turn them down. But it was, in our case, it was fairly obvious that we had to turn them down because the old subscription, I'm sure other wards were the same. I don't know what member support, possibly the setting up of a blank ward which they can apply it to, possibly with similar funding to each other particular ward. The knock-on effect would be probably that we all have to contribute. But it's something that we should consider. County state money, it's provided a huge boost to many organisations within all of their communities, but it's been seen as this everybody can apply as a free for all, and it does tend to get a bit messy because everybody thinks it's free cash and we can have a go. I think if we can set up some kind of separate fund that bodies who are across the Western Isles can apply into, because when they apply to a specific ward, it's difficult to give them any consideration at all when you're oversubscribed. So I mean, the suggestion I make is that we have a blank ward, possibly with similar funding that can apply into.
Yes, when I thank you, Chair, and thanks, Councillor MacDonald, for that question. When I alluded to the likelihood of me reporting to either a special meeting or the next meeting of Policy and Resources, that is one of the issues on which I would want to report, because there's a decision of principle there for members. First of all, do they want to make contributions to organisations with a reach beyond their own ward? That's a decision you have to take. I think you probably do. But of course, there has to be an objective process, as you've said, for which organisations we would want to support. Obviously, I would be saying it has to be linked to corporate strategy and other strategic activities. I mean, it's not the Corva's role to give to charity. In that sense, it's the Corva's role to deliver its statutory services and its policies. In that, of course, a lot of these organisations are doing things with us, for us, on our behalf, or things we would otherwise want to do ourselves. But it is time, I think, for there to be an objective process for that. And indeed, it is hard for ward members and area forums to take a decision about Western Isles projects when there are significant demands within the ward. So yes, that is one way of doing it, and it's certainly something we'll address in our report.
Thank you, Chairman. I agree with MacDonald that there is a low subscription in terms of the funding demands that will be placed upon task wards and area forums. I think that requires us to have a more effective governance arrangements around how this money is used. I mean, we do have a strategic fund that could perhaps deal with the issues that Mr. MacDonald has raised in terms of external bodies, charities, like with awards, kind of apply to that strategic fund rather than eroding the opportunity that is for local groups their own wards to spend. But there is real oversubscription in terms of interest and applications for groups their own wards. So we do need to have a real look at the governance structure, but I would suggest that the best way to go for these organizations is to apply the strategic fund that was set up for that purpose. In terms of the current state, can you update us on where we are with the £30 million that we are taking from the lease that is still outstanding? And what's the latest on the campaign to secure that money for us?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, absolutely. We don't want two strategic funds. I don't think we have we have a strategic fund which we were able to establish a couple of years ago. And if we're going to support similar organisations and activities through Crown Estate, then I think it has to be one or the other. On Crown Estate revenues generally, that work continues, and the leader and I have a meeting next week with Eilean MSP in preparation for a meeting with the Cabinet Secretary on this subject. It continues to be a focus of work for the three islands councils, taking forward the principles of the Smith Commission. In fact, we reminded COSLA of commitments in that regard. Last week, there were three commitments which the independent group of councillors made of COSLA and Crown Estate revenues, and the Smith Commission was one of them. The work continues, as you know, Councillor Crichton, government's response hitherto has not been encouraging, but commitments were given and they will be followed up as assiduously as possible, and that work continues even this month.
Thank you, Madam Chief Secretary. There should be no delay or debate regarding this at all. The principles were very clear in the time with both governments and in this in the recommendation in this committee, and those principles should be honoured by the government and not be sitting on this money that the better used to develop communities. So I think we need to be more robust, perhaps, in the interactions with the government regarding this. But patience is really running out.
I think that those are the messages which will be given at these meetings. I mean, we have worked collaboratively, and these are absolute commitments. They're commitments, as you say, signed by both governments, and they should be honoured regardless of it's regardless of developments. It's whether it's £10,000 or £10 million. They are commitments that were given, but they're political commitments. They're not legal commitments, but they were political commitments in full knowledge. So we'll pursue it on that basis.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, Peter. I'm not a member of your committee. I want to refer to one or two items in relation to our pursuit of eliminating poverty in the Western Isles. In your reference to the £20 million which we've been awarded by, I think, is that under the heading of levelling up? Is that right? Yes. I noticed in the publicity that accompanied the information on this, a reference to fewer poverty. And I wondered whether it would be possible, when you're in discussion on how these monies are spent, if a measure of priority could be given to the subject of addressing fuel poverty, given that Warren Watt is about to begin its work in the Western Isles, and if they could be involved in some way in the expenditure of these monies. I presume too that we would want to involve our own local firms if they're still prepared to be involved in this kind of work. But it would be a very effective step forward if we could use that as a priority issue for some of the monies that are coming from the £20 billion. I recognise in the report, which has just disappeared from my screen, if I can remember what it said, but it was a reference to the engagement, the Chief Executive, which I know you've had with the NHS, and I'm hoping that we can indeed persuade the NHS to work more collaboratively with the Council in terms of the coordination of the work that we do in relation to the relief of poverty in the Western Isles. I think if the two of us could work much more closely together, that we would be able to do a great deal more work. We could do a great deal more in terms of the coordination of the work that is done we have a great many agencies who are involved with it, and we are attempting at the moment through the Quality Action Group to collect that information. And the information coming in demonstrates there are many, many organisations across the Western Isles who are working in this area, but it would be good to coordinate, and it would also be good to know just exactly where the areas are that perhaps we are missing at the moment. And possibly by way of something off on a side, your reference to the National Care Service. I heard Michael Matheson, who is still the Health Secretary, I understand, speaking on the radio at lunchtime when I was home briefly. And he was being asked about the National Health Service, which is having its own issues at the moment. And he said that the future of the National Health Service would be tied in closely with the future of the National Care Service. And I have to say that worries me hugely. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, very happy to take these comments on board. As Mr. McCormick knows, we applied for coordinator support through the Scottish Government scheme, and which was hopelessly oversubscribed. And like most council areas, we were not successful in that. We will try and see what we can do, working between us and NHS. I see Colin Gilmer is on the call, and I would want to certainly to thank him for his massive assistance in this area. But if we work collaboratively, I think we could create not the coordinator post that we would have wanted to create had we been successful in our joint application, but at least an element of that funding. But that will take the support of other organisations, and to do that, we can't do that on our own in present circumstances. As regards the wider fuel poverty issues, yes, we will be making that point to UK government to levelling up team in Scotland office when they engage with us very shortly. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson.
I asked to the executive if we were successful in the latest round of the Scottish Government Regeneration Fund.
I think that will have to look to the Deputy Chief Executive. Volume. Are you hearing this, Deputy Chief Executive? We'll get an answer for you. Yeah.
I don't have personal knowledge of that, Councillor Robertson, but I'll certainly ensure that that's made available to you and circulated to others if that's something.
There's a fund that's worth well to ask significant sums.
Okay, then we'll get that information shared. There's no other questions. We'll move on to the next one, which is strategic finance. That would be Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Chair. Shall out less information in my report, Chief Executives will be glad to know. The nature of the finance service, obviously, revolves around annual cycles of accounts and budget and government returns. So in terms of development tasks and service development, there's fairly little to report on. Then in terms of the accounts, these were submitted for audit by the end of June as required. And we don't expect the audit to have been completed by then, but that's been delayed due to the surface issues in not exporting. On the budgets, there's still a lot of work to be done, obviously, and that will be the focus over the next few weeks and the period immediately after the new year. The Scottish budget is to be announced on the 19th of December, so we may get some initial indications of what the settlement will be just before the Justice holidays. I think the most of the detail will come after the holiday. And the Deputy First Minister's announcement at the weekend doesn't fill me with optimism about what the settlement is going to be like. in terms of development tasks, our main task this year is involves the switch from analog to digital telecoms. Obviously, this impacts on the operation of the Comhairle service. There was really a system available on the market that we could fulfill the requirements of the new setup. So Digital Communications Scotland, in conjunction with Scotland Excel, has been leading on a procurement exercise to identify a solution for this. And the Comhairle has been represented on that group by customer services manager. So we've been involved in that since the last year and a half. The project's now at the stage where a preferred system has been chosen. And we're fortunate in the fact that the Comhairle been one of the first system. We've had a visit on site and we have a system for testing and to start uploading the client data. So we'll hope early in the year for that operational. And that will of course allow to maintain this the hotel care facility. That's the main point. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments at this stage? Don't see any lights. So thank you very much. We'll move on to see that's head of partnership services and community affairs. I believe Emma's online. On the screen. Emma McSween, are you hearing us? Is there anybody there? Can I just say one thing else on mine? Are you hearing us okay? No, from someone. I should have done this at the start, I suppose.
I can hear you online here, Leader.
I can hear you, Paul. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sound's coming through okay.
Yes.
Excellent. Emma, are you hearing us okay? So maybe come back to this one. Back to this one. Back to this one. The other two reports are for noting at this stage. Members agreed to note the two previous reports. Thank you. Next item 9, strategy. This report is for noting and details the draft corporate strategy for 2024 to 2027, which has been updated to reflect the comments received during the period of consultation. The draft corporate strategy has 4 priority areas and a set of strategic outcomes, and the actions required to deliver the strategic outcomes are detailed in the business plans, other strategies and policies and procedures. A set of outcome measures will be used to report progress annually to the Comhairle. Norma's going to see it and be able to answer members' questions. Norma.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, I don't know a lot to add to what you're saying there yourself. To been able to me and much feedback. One apology is that some of the grants links in the candidates actually capacity. They were linking to our websites, so some of these links are down at the moment, but we will pick for that to be backed up. One of the things that we will do is make sure that there's a Gaelic version and another English version, and we will tighten the draft that we have. It's kind of a mock-up for the techniques. We'll do the additional work to it.
Content will be the same, I'll just leave it at.
Yeah.
Excellent. I don't see any lights on, but just I will show myself a comment. We've had quite a good series of meetings recently with the members in various wards across the islands. We haven't managed to finish them all yet, but one of the discussion points was the corporate strategy, and there was very positive feedback from most of those ward visits. Everyone seemed to think we were on, sort of on the right track and what we're trying to do. Obviously, at the start of the visits, I could refer them to the website, but as the visits went on, it wasn't possible. But I think the general feeling was that what we're proposing is the right way forward. So that's I'm quite reassured by that. So, Recommendation is at 3.1 and is that we would. Please. This now. So we improve the draft corporate strategy according to the report. We'll go back to item C of the corporate policy and delivery report update. I see Emma has joined us. Am I hearing it okay, Emma?
Yes, sorry about that, leader. I was taking a call on a real phone,
Real.
got distracted.
So yeah, if you're okay to proceed with the update from you.
Thank you. Yeah, in terms of the detail in the report is quite straightforward. The risk register, we are reviewing it in recent weeks, so that'll be updated for the next period. You can see the challenges and the successes in terms of we've transitioned to the Goat Hill campus, we've restructured care at home, but we still have, in terms of recruitment and retention issues, that's the biggest challenge we have. The Adult Support and Protection Improvement Plan, that's been progressed through the Adult Protection Committee and monitored through the COG. If there's any specific questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you very much. Do members have any specific questions in this chart report? Don't see any lights or hands up, so thank you very much for that, Emma. So we need to note that report. Okay, thank you. So we're on to item 10, we've taken a time at the end of the meeting. So moving on to item 11. This report seeks approval of the Corey's local heat and energy efficiency strategy and delivery plan. As part of the development of the Corey's local heat and energy efficiency strategy, or LEAS, set the long-term plan for the entire local authority the decarbonise and improve energy efficiency. What do you know? The revised LEAS is attached to a appendix 1 to the report, and the revised draft delivery plan is at appendix 2 to the report. And we have Anna Hume here to present and answer many questions.
Yes, the draft strategy I think possibly and document the design and we bring from the section largely around potential values and then efficiently construct buildings on the so that's
Thanks very much. Are there any questions or comments from members? No. In which case, do we agree to approve the recommendation? Thank you very much. So we'll move on. This report is for noting and provides an update on the base of 2023. This is the initial program of sites in February 2020. It's a part of 8 million by the Scottish Government. But it's total 50.2 million with 5 calls. 30 September 20. 2 million that have been largely in projects carried forward. Breakdown is provided in the
Yeah, did he have much actual details then? I did that.
in this report. forecast revenue outcome. In order to the accounts for 22, show that cost there's $10 million. In addition to current sales.
MRC recent that change. That increased. This has maybe means that there's no I always say taken in court. You just areas that are sustained. Don't need to be.
It's just a family of my. Oh, you get it. Oh, you're finishing. So, yeah, are there any questions?
I'll be aware. I can read. Something. I think I'm safe on the phone. Yeah. But maybe it's.
Sorry, messages that you gave me stuff. Stop reference. Do it very much.
Form an orderly queue. check with the people online. We're still kind of waiting in the chamber, but just see if you can hear me okay. Is it coming through clear enough?
Oh, yes. Very
Yeah, I
clear.
can hear you.
That's good. We think it might just be a bandwidth issue because there's so many people in the building at the moment. But what we'll do is we'll get everyone back into the chamber and we'll make a start again. Hopefully that works. And Katie's just come in. All will be well. So just another test with those online. Are you hearing us okay now?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, we've done a bit of a workaround in the room, so hopefully that'll help. The leader requires some training on the operation of the gavel. Okay, if you're hearing us okay online, thank you very much. Are you hearing us in the room and online?
Yes.
Yep, excellent, thank you. Okay, we'll make a start again. So, Councillor Murray, if you want to raise your point again, if that's okay. Apologies for the delay.
Apologies to those of you who already had to listen to me. Members will be aware that the disastrous and reckless mini budget of September 2022, which was presided over by Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng, led directly to a sharp fall in the value of the pound, IMF criticism and market turbulence. And when you take that in conjunction with what was already high costs of fuel and the cost of living crisis, the resulting spiralling rate of inflation has had and continues to have a hugely detrimental effect on organisations like our own and communities like ours. And it's really important to remember that while Mr. Sunak is congratulating himself on the fall in the rate of inflation, prices are still rising by that rate, with all the costs for families and communities as a result. And as far as I'm aware, there's been no mitigating funding from Westminster to Scottish Government to alleviate the cost of what was their folly. And I think by all the reshuffles, etc., that have happened since then, it's quite clear they're aware that it was their folly. So I ask that we make representation to COSLA to demand that the Westminster Government make such a payment to the Scottish Government in mitigation, and therefore onwards to organisations like ourselves. So that's my recommendation, a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll open up to the chamber for any thoughts on the inclusion of an additional recommendation to approach COSLA to make these representations. Quite happy? If so, then we'll get that added. Thank you very much. And the recommendation for approval is at 3.1 of the report. Agreed. Thank you very much with the inclusion. Item 15. This report is for noting and provides a summary of the Treasury management activity during the first 6 months of 2023-24. The Treasury management strategy for 23-24, which was approved by the Comhairle on the 26th of April 2023, included the recommended prudential indicator estimates for the year. These indicators have been updated to reflect the changes to date and shown in paragraph 10, and Norman MacDonald is available to answer members' questions. Norman?
Thank you, Chair. Nothing really to add. This report is just a requirement to update members on investment and borrowing activities during the year on a number of occasions, so nothing unusual to report.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members? No. In which case, do we either recommend to note the recommendation at 3.1? Thank you. Item 16. And this report advises of the impact of introducing full cost recovery for Comhairle community care services and recommends that the full cost recovery be included in the budget setting process for 2024-25. The fees and charges are explained in paragraph 5.1 of the report. In the event of introducing full cost recovery, the Comhairle will continue to follow COSLA guidance on charges. The report outlines in paragraph 5.2 what the framework of charges for 23-24 would have been based on full cost recovery. And Graham Millett is available online. Hi, Graham, to speak to the report and answer members' questions. And there's you will have some figures. I think there's some details shared there earlier on with members. So over to you, Graham.
Okay, thanks, Chair. So yeah, as Chair said, the purpose of the report is to advise what the impact would be of introducing full cost recovery. At the last series of meetings, the fees and charges report for 23-24 recommended applying the same approach as previous years, which was calculation of uplifts as per a 5% increase. That recommendation was agreed, but it was also agreed that we should put this report forward to introduce a detail of full cost recovery calculations. So that's what the report does, sets out the increase in charges if the financial assessment process is applied to the full cost of service provision, as opposed to the practice of a charge set by applying an annual percentage increase. As Chair said, these costs are in sections 5.1, 5.2 of the report. So, for example, under full cost recovery, the standard weekly charge for a collier care home would be 1,806 per individual per week, rather than 1,287. Now that's the maximum charge for each service and doesn't translate into the amount that individuals will pay. As you all know, it's quite a complex financial assessment, and yeah, there are various things that impact on it, like capital thresholds. It is a significant change though. As the report says, the anticipated value to the IGB budget for full cost recovery this year would have been over £700,000. Now, the income received forms part of the IGB budget, but it is a legal requirement that the fees are set here by the collier. So that's an outline of the report, Chair. As you say, I've done a couple of examples and I can talk through these if useful.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, I'll open up to members for any questions or comments about this report and the examples. Councillor MacLeod.
Thanks, Leader. Yeah, that's a seriously significant increase that would probably go down like a lead balloon in the communities. You know, I can see why. How does this benchmark across Scotland with charges in other areas?
Graham. Did you hear that question? Okay.
Yeah. I'm not aware of how it benchmarks across other areas. Don't know if Emma, if you've got any information on that.
Emma. I think she's on her landline again.
Yeah, can certainly get that information for you.
Yeah, we'll get that information and share it with members. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments about the report? Okay, Councillor McCormick.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not a member of your committee. I don't have a question. I have an observation. At 1806, if you sold your house for £150,000, you would be able to pay for 83 weeks of care. The absurdity of all of this is something that we really should be drawing to the attention of everybody who's got anything whatsoever to do with it. I mean, my view is that this should be, if it's going to be a national care service, and these costs should be covered by the national care service, and we should not have to inflict individuals with these kind of charges. Quite bizarre, really. Where on earth then are we going to get £1,806 to pay for their accommodation for a week? Absurd. Wish I earned that kind of money.
Thank you, Councillor McCormick.
I don't actually, to be honest.
No, but no, I think it's something that the whole funding mechanism for the National Care Service, these are some of the considerations that have to be thought through. And as Mr. Budd mentioned earlier on, time seems to be marching on pretty quickly on that. Councillor MacDonald.
Yeah, thanks again, Chair. Yeah, I echo the sentiments of Councillor McCormack. I saw a couple on the news a couple of weeks ago who had decided to go and cruise the world rather than going to care. I mean, the prices we're charging and the prices we must charge just to fund the service. But the absurdity of the whole thing just comes crashing home just now. I just Googled a cruise on the Britannia in a stateroom for 2 weeks, £1,800 per person. So it's the absurdity. It's crazy. Like Angus said, you know, you could sell your house and still only be able to fund less than 2 years of being in a care home. It's and the costs and the implications to us of continue to fund this service, continue to be. Well, it's not a millstone around our neck, because these are folk who are deserving of our support and care because they've worked hard for their own old age. But the costs involved are astronomical.
Yeah, for us to provide that service.
Yeah,
absolutely. Graham, were you wanting to come back on any of these comments? Or is that a bit political?
No, just I mean the exact figure, that 1806, there is an allowance within that of 233, so it's roughly 1,500. But I know it doesn't affect the sentiments that have been expressed.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. You okay with that?
Yeah.
No other question or comment. So the recommendation is that the colony include full cost recovery for adult social care and residential related services in the budget setting process for 24-25. Do we agree to include it? Recommendation. Agreed. Thank you. Item 17 will be taken private at the end of the meeting. And item 18 is the Goat Hill development Project update. So the report is for noting and provides an update and an overview on the recently completed development, focusing on design and construction delivery aspects. Appendix 1 provides an aerial overview of the site and its constituent parts. The award-winning facility has received national recognition and reflects the vision to provide exemplar dementia care and extra care for service users. In addition to this, the project delivered various social and community benefits during the construction phases. Further detail is provided in the report, and the contractor's social value report is appended to the report. And we have Malcolm and Dan available to answer members' questions. But just to clarify, this is not on the service. This is about the capital project that we're focusing on at this stage. Chief Executive.
Chair, my intervention will be very short indeed. It's just to commend this very full report to you and to record my thanks to Mr. McPhail, the Senior Projects Manager, who's led this project superbly, and to Emma McSween, Head of Service, and all her colleagues and all those who've contributed to the achievement of this facility. As you've said, it's award-winning. And to my mind, it is a model of care for the future in other areas of the Western Isles, and I'll say no more than that, but I just want to record that from my own perspective. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I can speak on members' behalf to concur with much of that sentiment. Dan, were you wanting to come in on any point specifically?
Thanks, just briefly. I want to draw attention to section 8 of the report, and I want to mention, if I may, the role of Ms. McSween again and the rest of our colleagues at Comhairle Management, who have to persist with me bombarding them with emails and meeting requests, and there's a huge amount of design data that has to be worked through. And to do that in tandem with delivering a very challenging service takes a lot. And I'm very thankful that we had a client group who were very responsive in terms of getting back with design queries and so on. Secondly, the Benidorm team, who had to deal with a huge level of topsoil and subsoils at a critical point in the project, and I don't think we can underestimate their role in that. It was a risk to the Comhairle at the time, and they're working within a very, an area of tight regulation. And I want to pay my thanks to them too. And lastly, the IT section, who again are having to run their own services and then put up with a really large scale development happening on our doorstep. And the demands during these projects are huge in terms of getting information to the contractor and so on and so forth. And again, they stood up to the challenge, and I'm very thankful for them, for the role that they played in delivering the project. Other than that, happy to take questions, Chair.
Thank you very much. It's absolutely right to recognise all the hard work that goes on behind the scenes to make these things happen. So thank you for that. Councillor MacDonald.
Yeah, thanks again, Chair. I'd just like to thank the hard work of everybody involved in this project. You forgot to mention the big elephant that came into the room, COVID. This project was delivered under the most trying of circumstances, and it's a fantastic achievement to have managed to deliver, given the appalling circumstances that you were working at, and contractors were working under. The cost of materials going through the roof, supply and everything else. It was a miracle, that everything came out, given the budget and given the time constraints you had to deliver a fantastic facility, an award-winning facility. Yeah, I'm looking forward to lighting one of the bench properties in the very near future. Well done, Dan.
It's got your name on it. Are there any other questions or comments from members? No. In that case, it's recommended for approval, I believe. So for noting. For noting. Okay. Thank you very much. Agree to note. Yeah. Thank you. Next item will be in private at the end of the meeting. Item 20. This report is for noting again and provides an update on the progress associated with the community campus project in Barra and Watersea. And Mr. Bird will speak to the report. And again, Dan is also available to answer members' questions on. So, Mr. Bird.
Thank you, Chair. Once again, this report is for noting. I wish it were for. I wish it had some recommendations with some action points attached. But it is right that the committee hears from time to time the current state of what is, after all, the Comhairle's largest putative capital project. at this time. I won't read the report to you. Suffice to say, there was an announcement made by the Cabinet Secretary for Health and Social Care in April that the funding for the hospital element was deferred for the duration of this capital programme, which in Scottish Government's terms is 26-27. What did that require us to do? We had to instruct Hub North through Mr Comhairle to assess the impact of that statement to deliver what we want to deliver, which is the education, leisure, housing with extra care element of the project as predicted, and the details are set out in paragraph 5. Of course, that doesn't help the affordability gap at all. Inevitably, of course, while that was done, there's been a loss of momentum across several of the project areas, as is noted in the report. The tier 1 contractor and the accompanying supply chain is effectively stood down. And to cut to the chase here, Chair, in order to make meaningful progress, the project must secure additional funding, and you and I are meeting the Cabinet Secretary for Education and Skills. I would want to record, though, that her officials and her predecessors' officials on the education side have been uniformly helpful in this regard, and I think it's unfortunate for Ms Gilruth that the meeting is with her alone and not also with Health and Social Care, and indeed with the Deputy First Minister. This is not solely a matter for Education and Skills in Scottish Government, who have been supportive from day one. Meantime, of course, with all this, the condition of Castlebay School continues to deteriorate, and this would be a very sad recommendation were Callum Mackenzie and I to be making it subsequently. You know, we may have to spend money on a school that we wish to replace, and had this project been allowed to proceed as was intended, we would have been replacing by now, and that would be, you know, that is not good use of public money. Background is set out at paragraph 5, and Mr Comhairle is here to speak to that in detail and to correct any errors. But you know where we are here. It is right that the committee receives a report about the project. The next stage in that is our meeting with the Cabinet Secretary on 13 December, and we will come back to the committee in due course on the results of that meeting. But if there is no immediate prospect of delivery of the project, then we will have to look at options which we did not wish to look at. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Batt. Nothing from Mr. Comhairle at the moment. So if there are any questions or comments from members? No, nothing at this stage. Like, it's slightly disappointing to be in this position, but we're very keen to get some momentum built back up again on this project, as it's vital for the people in Barra to get this moving. So the recommendation is, sorry. Councillor Mackenzie online.
Sorry, I seem to have had problems in actually joining to the meeting. I don't know if there was anybody else had the same problem. But I just caught the end of what Mr. Barr was saying. And just from my own point of view, when I went onto the council, back onto the council in 2012, there was a group of people involved with various matters to do with health and all the rest of it, and they were talking about the site in Barra. And this seems to have, I don't know how the discussion has gone up till now, but the fact is there's been delays all the way along the line, and it hasn't entirely been the government, the council, or whatever. But I get the impression, and I have got the impression all the way along this saga, that the people in Barra themselves, one minute they wanted, now I might be misquoting them, but the fact is that at times we've been talking about two different, a school and a hospital, and then the two together, which sounded great, and then some people didn't seem to be for it, and some people, by this time, coming from this end of the islands, I don't know what the people actually want. So maybe somebody from your end, leader, could explain just what is the feeling in Barra, apart from the obvious that it hasn't started.
Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. So just on your first point, there have been a few technical issues over the last few while, but I think the people in Barra have been quite clear recently, and I think just to reiterate that, I'll bring in Councillor McNeill.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to make it perfectly clear that the Barra community are expecting a school and a hospital to get delivered with all the housing with extra care and sports facilities, that whatever, and that's the expectation and long overdue in every way.
Thank you very much. And I don't think the word disappointment actually covers the situation in Barra. It's been a long drawn out process that shouldn't have had to happen this way. Councillor McNeill, we want to come back in?
Yes, yeah, it's really past the stage of being disappointed.
Yeah.
It's and we're really looking at some positive news next month, and if not, I don't know what's going to happen.
Can I come back in then on that?
Yes, Councillor Mackenzie, yeah.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, people have been waiting, well, as I say, it's now 12 years since I went on, and I'm sure it was going on a long time before that. And, you know, something's got to be done, because the people at Barra have been waiting. The first priority school for long enough, and the hospital situation from the health board. You know, things have got to move. It's just ridiculous the way it's dragged on.
Yeah, thank you, Ray. Thank you. Are you okay, Councillor McNeill?
No, I've got nothing to add.
Okay.
Thank you. Just that I agree with Councillor Mackenzie completely.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Likely to use fellow language.
Yes, best to keep your microphone off, Councillor McLean, but I think your feelings on the subject are well known and well appreciated. So the recommendation is that we note the report. Unfortunately, it is just for noting. So do members agree to note? Agreed. Thank you. Item 21 is the report seeking approval of the local the Outer Hebrides Local Child Poverty Action Report for 2022-23 and the action plan for the following year. I have Colin Gilmore online and Linda Cunningham as well, but we'll start with Colin. If you take us through it, Colin. Thanks for coming along today.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, loud and clear, yeah.
Thank you very much. So thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to present the Outer Hebrides Local Child Poverty Report. There is a requirement under the Child Poverty Act for both the local authority and the NHS board to report annually on progress in child poverty, and the 2022-23 report is before you. Our local strategic plan has a broader approach towards working poverty as a whole, rather than specifically looking at child poverty, and this report reflects that kind of approach, which many other areas in Scotland are now moving towards. So interesting that development is taking place. The report presents updated statistics, and some of the headline statistics are that child poverty after housing costs has risen to 19.8%, and that's affecting 913 households. There are substantial number of children in low-income families before housing, again a rate that is rising. And over the same time, employment in lower paid occupations locally has also increased from 28% to 31.5%. So there are a large proportion of working families with the potential to be suffering poverty in the Outer Hebrides. Just a note though, and it's a bit of caution, and the statistics do need to be treated with a deal of caution. Our low population and the number of children mean that there can be a considerable variation from year to year in both estimates of proportions and numbers. And over time, we have seen that we tend to have slightly lower rates of child poverty than nationally. So we can look at these and we can follow national trends, and we can see that we actually just have rates that are slightly lower. But again, we have to have a note of caution there, because we shouldn't underestimate the impact of energy costs, fuel poverty, as well as the significant variation in prices on Eilean compared to other areas of urban Scotland. And that results in a cumulative price differential of somewhere between 15 to 30%, depending upon the household size and the makeup of that household. So, and from my memory, single pensioners, they come off worst. So one of our most vulnerable groups. The report also identifies and describes the work of the wide range of agencies and services that contribute to addressing poverty, and the impact of that good partnership and service delivery that exists. So you please for members to note the agencies that are involved in the hard work that's going on. You'll also note from the report that the financial and other benefits accrued in our community, and that ranges from income from social security and the increases that we managed to achieve there, child payments through education, financial entitlements through, you'd say, your own financial inclusion services and CAP services, as well as the wide range of benefits in kind from things like all the voucher schemes and food distribution networks that are there. I'd like to particularly draw attention, though, to the funding distributed to the local authority during this year. And it can be difficult to identify due to the variety of payments and projects that are available and they're listed within the document. But my estimates are that about £1.6 million of resources were allocated during this year, with a further £300,000 spread across 2 years and into this financial year. So just to point out that when you group that together, these are substantial amounts of money and have an impact on households' ability to deal with the increasing cost of living. So just to please note that. It also goes on to describe the priorities for the 2023-24 year, the year that we're in. And it continued to be the aiming to reduce the drivers of poverty and the impact of the cost of living increases in families and children, including mitigating fuel poverty. There is a need to further interrogate local data sets and partner knowledge to focus the targeting on the 6 priority groups identified in the national strategy. So we're not so quite good at targeting in that way because we do have low numbers in areas, but it does mean targeting mums under 25, families with children under 1, lone parents and families with 3 or more children. So it's groups like that that we'll be particularly interested in, and also some of the geographical locations because there is variation across our area. And these activities, and you'll read in the report, we're going to focus mainly on fuel poverty, healthy eating, access to transport and infrastructure as some of these items. I'd recommend the report to the committee and priorities for next year, and happy to take any comments or questions.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Colin. We have Linda online as well. I don't know if you want to add anything at this stage, Linda, or just to answer questions possibly.
Nothing to add, Chair, at the moment. Thanks. I help
Okay,
with any
thank you.
questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members on this excellent report? No. In which case, just a comment from myself, just thank you, the noting the funding to address the poverty agenda from the Comhairle is, it's very much worth pointing out us being able to support it in that way, despite the difficult circumstances we find ourselves in as well. So thanks for raising that. The report is the recommendation is to approve the report and the action plan for the following year. Agreed?
Actually,
Of course, yes, for the priorities for 23-24 rather than the action plan. Sorry, I forgot to change that. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. If it's okay with the committee, we'll leave item 22 until the end for Mr. Libby to attend. And at this stage, we'll move on to item 23. This report seeks approval to submit the completed public bodies climate change duties compliance reporting template 22-23 to the Scottish Government. The completed compliance reporting template appended to the report provides an overview of the Comhairle's progress on climate change, covering governance, emissions and projects, climate change adaptation, procurement and wider influence across the local authority area. And Anna Hume will answer members' questions and speak to the report. Anna.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, not much to add, just that the information in the report has been collated from services and has been verified by internal audit, and happy to take any questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Are there any questions or comments about the report? Councillor Thompson.
Thanks for that. it's maybe just a wee bit left field, but after the presentation we had this morning about the sustainable aviation, I just wondered if there's been a change in tack, or you see a change in tack coming, where we're doing less about changing people's behaviours, which was very much the focus for a long time, to mitigate the damage to the climate, and whether we're seeing a bit of a change about getting industry more involved, or if it's just that that presentation brought that to the front of my mind this morning.
Anna, would you like to come in?
So I guess the report kind of looks at what's been done over the last calendar year, and so maybe doesn't address the kind of sustainable aviation, but any work that was kind of being done by services on that area would be kind of collated as part of next year's report.
Look forward to that then. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you very much. The report is for approval. Members agree? Thank you. Item 24 has been withdrawn, and item 25, the report there seeks approval of the draft Comhairle and Eilean Siar British Sign Language Plan 2024 to 2030 for public consultation. So the feedback will be used to inform the final draft before it is presented to the Comhairle for final approval. Fiona Nape will answer members' questions on this report. Fiona.
Thank you, Chair. This report is to clarify that the Comhairle is required to publish its second BSL plan by April 2024, and the report is seeking approval for the Comhairle's draft plan 2430 appended to the report to go out to consultation. The final draft will be presented back to committee for approval at the February 24 series, so I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Fiona. Are there any questions or comments from members? No. Look forward to getting the consultation response. Thanks very much, Fiona.
Thank you, Chair.
Recommendation for approval at 3.1. Approved. The next item is reports outstanding, and there are currently no reports outstanding on this committee. We'll go back to item 22. That's okay. So, Mr. Libby, are you with us online? He's on hold. Yeah. Okay, just give us a couple of seconds. Technical hitch.
He did have another meeting.